With me, a fellow supporter who is a international lady of mystery and lactation consultation, Mirine Richey. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Yeah! Happy to be here. I like that title.
You like it?
Yes.
International Lady of Mystery. So yes, it's a mystery to me how we already did an hour some odd show, and I'm still really fired up to talk for like as long as you're available with supporters about stuff.
We still have a lot more to talk about. I
know, right? We only touched. Show them what you gave me.
We
here.
Only touched the surface, Dr. Z. I gave you it is endorsed, licensed merch from my program at FSU for when I teach lactation to healthcare providers. They got to have a prop and a stress reliever.
Florida State University gives the boobies out. Lisa C says, love it. Yeah, this was amazing, and we pulled it out on the show. The show will probably go out maybe tomorrow or the next day, but you guys get to come and ask all your questions. I have to say, what I love about Mirine is she's a wonderful educator, a wonderful human being, and so alt-middle about feeding babies that it hurts, right?
I don't want it to hurt. I don't want breastfeeding to hurt. I don't want feeding babies to hurt at all, but unfortunately it does. So
It can. Now, let me... It's going to be tricky because I got to switch cameras, switch to different comments, all while talking to you. So awesome. I do apologize if I'm a little crazy. Let me pull out the comments on Facebook so that we can see them pop out. The comments. There's Jane and Cindy. Let me open it out in a different tab. All right, there we go. All right, so there's our Facebook comments. So we got Cindy, Storm, and Risa Doobie. Risa's here. She says, oh my God, a boob stress ball. Risa?
Yes.
Squeeze them if you got them. You know, I got to say, while we were talking, I was like, because breastfeeding stresses me out because I had that like traumatic experience with my wife and all that, right?
That's a common reaction in all parents, male, female, the grandparent, everybody gets really stressed out about infant feeding.
And why is it so stressful?
Well, it's personal, right? So it's our bodies. We have people telling us what to do with our bodies, which as women, we're kind of tired of, honestly.
As a man, I'm perfectly happy to tell you what to do with your body, especially if I'm in legislation.
That's correct. And yet our legislators haven't tried to kind of rein in some of the problems that we are seeing right now, which is we've got this formula shortage, which that's an enormous amount of stress for parents who've taken that path for whatever reason, choice, necessity, what have you. So we've got the lactation consultant talking about formula. And so I think a lot of times people are automatically like, oh, great, here we go with the breast is best lecture.
Breast shaming. 101 with Mirine Richey, except that's not what you do, which is what came through on the 1 hour interview we just recorded. Yeah.
It's certainly something that I think when you start learning a lot about lactation, probably with any health craft, you can't wait to share your knowledge. And I think sometimes that can come across a little intense.
Right.
And then I've been doing this for a few years. So
yeah, you got it.
Learned how to really step back too and take a look at the population that I was serving when I did direct services. And now I'm serving healthcare providers. And there's a lot of nuances and nobody has one best way. I can tell you that.
And you know, I got to say this, speaking of services.
Oh yeah.
You came to my studio visiting the Bay Area, going down, do a talk in Central Valley later, but you came from this place, let me see if I can get it in focus. Come on, focus. There it is. Pole and dance.
San Francisco pole and dance.
Okay. So not just any pole and dance, San Francisco pole and dance. Tell me about this place.
SF pole. I hit it every time I come to town.
What?
Every time.
This is like a regular thing. You just like go pole dancing when you come in?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Most of my work at the university has been travel related, not so much the last couple of years. But I pole dance in any city that I go to.
Wait a minute. So every other city you go and every other video, no matter where I go, I see the same pole. I just did that. That just happened.
And I'll never be the same.
You can tell, gang, she's a supporter. All right, let's read some comments. Sarah PA says, yes, nursed each kiddo 4 and 4.5 years. Breastfeeding and extended breastfeeding is amazing. And what do you think about that? Like that many years of extended breastfeeding?
It's biologically normal. If you look at tooth patterns of mammals, that's kind of what tells us how long the baby nurses.
So what does this tell you right here?
You were weaned.
You're calling me a weenie. So it is actually within biological parameters of humans to do that.
Worldwide, the average is somewhere between 4 and 5 years.
Yeah, of course.
Because the tooth patterns that emerge to really be able to, grind up meat and hard things, hard vegetables and whatnot, don't emerge until a little bit later. So it is biologically normal. It's not culturally normal in the United States. It's not socially normal, but biologically, sure.
I remember watching that Game of Thrones episode where there was this woman, I think it was what's her name's sister, and the boy was something like 12 and was on her breast when they walk in, and the kid was like she was super coddling this kid, and everyone was just like, but it's like, well, why? Is that really that abnormal in a sense?
I think that's
12 is pushing it
way end of the spectrum in terms of, but there's that nuance again. There are children that do require breast milk long term that have other disorders, have digestive problems, behavioral issues that this may be. I've definitely worked with kids with severe food texture intolerances, and they do tend to, breastfeed longer.
We're getting great questions already. Many of these we touched on in our long show, but let's go into this. So please share your thoughts on cutting the frenulum on tongue tie. And we talked about that because, give us your few lines on that.
So it can be very helpful. I have seen where release that tight can be anterior at the tip of the front of the tongue, can be posterior in the back, which is harder to see. But either way, if it's restricting tongue movement, mom is getting macerated nipples, baby's not growing and thriving, it can be very helpful. It's probably overdone. I wouldn't say there's probably any, there's mixed research.
Yeah.
But some babies can grow out of it fine. Some babies do benefit. I think that there is not a black and white answer to that.
That's exactly, you know what? We kind of took like 3 hours to do, or an hour to do what you just did. But, Well, now we have an Instagram reel that we can put out.
Awesome.
So it's interesting. So someone else asked, where is it here? And I'm on the locals comment thread, but I'm also going to go over to the Facebook thread. But so, hey, nursed 4 kids, hardest but best thing I ever did, says Krista. But I wanted to read this one here. SG Cohen says, remember us moms that adopted, had to formula feed, and my kiddos turned out fine. Tell me about that.
Yeah, and I think that the comments so far are absolutely the heart of the matter. It's hard to have this discussion without really reflecting on your own personal experience. So as a lactation consultant, my very first concern is baby gets fed. If I was doing a home visit, I'm not leaving until that baby gets fed something. That baby is going to eat. For our children in foster care systems, our adoptive children, parents who don't choose to lactate, formula has been the answer. But my opinion is it's not the only answer.
Mm-hmm. And we talked about that at length in our show. Like, what are the alternatives, which we'll touch on now. Let's pull up Facebook's comments here. Boy, people are super engaged today. This is great. See, fellow supporters. It's all about that latch, says Risa. What do you think?
It is all about
Risa's a NICU nurse.
It is all about the latch. And there's so many factors that go into why that doesn't happen. A lot of times parents are desperate for some peace and quiet. They'll pop a pacifier in that mouth, or they'll get a little extra in the bottle just to help out. And now we're changing that behavior that the baby has to learn, which is how to properly latch on and draw the milk down. And if they aren't connecting, they're not transferring the milk, things are going to go bad pretty quickly. Makes sense.
Karen Dickerson Kuplak on Facebook, the Fatch Book, says, over 12 cumulative years of breastfeeding, love, I'm a huge advocate, but first rule is feed the baby, like you just said. And one of my nieces had her baby on a very specialized formula. Sweet mama, had family and friends all over the country looking for the right formula. I can't imagine the stress. What's your take? Because we talked about this on the show, like this formula crisis.
Right. And depending on the medical need, I mean, we've got babies who can't not digest any intact protein, so they're on an amino acid-based formula. I think that was the first one that we flew in from overseas, because that's medically critical. That can land a child in a hospital. We've got babies with galactosemia, they have to have very specialized. We have babies with PKU that need some. So there's a lot of medical need out there, and that formula was the first to go because it's not cranked out at the same production rate, of course, as the more kind of typical stuff.
So basically, what you're telling me is, baby got galactosemia.
Yeah, those poor babies. Those poor babies, because the breast milk is not an option for those babies. So
yeah, that's true. Natalie MacArthur, who is this the same Natalie MacArthur who is the veterinarian that I interviewed all those years ago about a constipated turtle? If it is, slide into my DMs, girl. I don't have DMs. Email me, hello@zdogmd.com. Struggle is real with healthcare providers versus the poll.
And let me tell you, it's even more real when you've got a client who's pumping and trying to hit the pole at the same time.
Dude, could you imagine? It
has happened.
What?
And it was lucky that she was my pole client because I was able to help her with both her spins as well as how to hold the pump in place while spinning. I am not even lying.
So you teach pole dancing as well?
I was teaching pole dancing and aerial for quite a while because it's my creative release from the stress that all this mother-baby stuff can really bring up. And I was trained as a ballerina, and I went into pole dancing when my feet started giving out.
We didn't even get into that.
I know.
On the show,
but
on the
brought
recording.
You a sticker.
I know. She brought me a sticker. You guys, I have to say, my supporter tribe is the best. That someone like you even exists in the world is remarkable to me. And it's not just as someone who's partial to pole dancing. Let's grab some comments. Risa says the formula shortage has been a huge issue for discharging NICU patients. We often fortify. It's complicated. Yeah, NICU stuff.
And the good news is now they are making human milk fortifiers. So that's going to start to, we are seeing more and more hospitals using those fortifiers in the NICU setting, which is great.
Yeah.
But also, we do see the formula fortifiers more often.
Yeah, and we talked about in the show, there's breast milk, there's formula, and there's these new potential synthetic human milks that have the advantage of not being foreign type proteins like the cow's milk based or soy milk based formulas or goat milk based abroad and different things like that. Here, give me a few words on that while I pull a comment.
And we also have the Human Milk Bank Association North America, our donor
system. I make regular withdrawals. It's just for my coffee.
And, you wouldn't be the top priority because we do tend to favor the preterm, the at-risk for neck first. But,
Selfish mini babies.
However, we do know that elderly cancer patients can benefit from donor milk as well.
Is that right?
Absolutely. And of course, unfortunately, our donor milk system doesn't have the quantity to support everybody that can benefit. But absolutely, cancer patients can benefit.
It's almost like Ensure on steroids, yeah?
Yeah, except for it's absolutely no stress on the digestive system. It's really well absorbed, like I was telling you, the difference in the proteins. And it's got immune properties as well. There
was a thing that was in the news a while back, someone was making a breast milk ice cream and they were selling it.
Yeah, I wouldn't buy that. But but it is pretty common for moms, especially maybe they've got a stash and they don't want to throw it away. That was hours of hard work.
Yeah.
And they will make things out of it for the baby. I wouldn't sell it, nor would I buy it. But
baby ice cream.
Baby ice cream.
Maybe don't add sugar and chilled monkey brains or whatever they put in.
Mix it with the vegetables and things. It's a taste that babies used to.
There you go. Great idea. So Shannon FMP says, nurse practitioner in peds here. Can you share advice for concentrating calories for mom who's expressing sufficient amounts of milk but still failure to thrive baby? What's your favorite approach? So they're making enough milk, but the baby's still failing to thrive from a caloric insufficiency.
I'd probably
question whether it's
test the baby first, right? Because our bodies are designed to produce the right macros. However, there have been some pretty cool cases of being able to take mom's milk, centrifuge it, concentrate fats, double load fats, skim fats, put it, extra fats in what's been expressed and feed a different load. So I'm not changing mom's diet. Of course, we should always evaluate to make sure, but, women can be in refugee camps on very little calories and still produce milk. It's going to take from their body first.
Yeah.
So I would look at talking to a lactation consultant or someone who's got the experience in hematocrit, taking the extra fats from different pumped amounts and kind of combining it. Science.
How science? How is it that after an hour of talking to you already, I'm still learning stuff I've never even thought about? I guess because this is your whole life passion here.
This is my whole life passion.
Yeah.
I didn't start
you didn't
it
sign
out
up for this.
I didn't really sign up to do this.
You studied pandemic stuff, right?
I did my master's in public health, and I did pandemic modeling and planning, specifically H5N1. But my lens was the most vulnerable, so infants and pregnant women. So I was doing a lot of modeling.
We can talk about some COVID stuff for the supporters too, because I'm sure you got opinions on what we done right and wrong. Fiery Faunov 2018 on Local says, "Oh my God, Z-Dog, my husband cooked with my breast milk once because we were out of milk. He didn't tell me until after I ate it. Oh dear, is that auto cannibalism? What is that?"
It's totally acceptable, whatever it is.
All right.
In a pinch.
In a pinch.
But it's it's not as thick and creamy as cow milk.
So R. Manning says breast milk ice cubes are the greatest thing ever for teething.
Oh, for sure.
So you can do that.
It's also really great for eye infections.
Whoa, really?
Yeah, it's got the anti-infective properties. You get pink eye.
You put it on the eye?
Express breast milk right in the eye.
Oh, wow. That sounds...
My pediatrician taught me that before I even went into this
Really?
field.
I think I've seen that on Pornhub.
I mean, I can't speak to that. Nor will I.
I would love to become a lactation consultant, says Tara Barnett. Now, you know what's interesting? So I came into this discussion with you with a lot of preconceived prejudice against your people.
Right.
Because again, we all come with our own baggage. My wife felt very pressured and all that. She went through mastitis and all this other stuff, which we talked about on our show. And I've come out of the discussion with you going, oh, there's so much potential when we do this correctly and we do it I use the term middle always, but it's a nuanced, contextual way, and you're very good at it.
Well, I just think, there's so many great public health policies and promotional efforts that go on, and they need to stay that way, including what I do at Florida State University. But we're handing people marching orders with absolutely no map.
Yeah.
We don't have paid leave. We don't provide sufficient protections under the law for nursing women and lactating pumpers at the workplace. There's little gaps and loopholes in the Affordable Care Act that allow for potential problems. It's not quite strong enough. So we're not meeting the demand of we're pushing. And pushing might not be the right word, promoting breastfeeding because the research is there. We know how healthy it is to lactate. We know how healthy it is to receive breast milk if you're an infant. But it's the action item in the middle that we don't provide enough help for in this country. And so we're setting moms up for failure. And that's when we see this guilt and shame and, unfortunate, maybe sometimes bias against my profession, which, there's good and bad in every profession, of course.
Of course.
But I know that I don't know one lactation consultant that can look in the eyes of a crying postpartum mother and be like, well, you should have done it the other way.
Yeah,
I mean, I just can't fathom that would be a thing.
That's correct. Risa pointed out that you used the term hematocrit, which is just amazing. It actually flew by my radar when she was saying it. I heard something a crit and I was like, okay, I'll have to come back to that. Risa pointed out hematocrit. I'm going to spin a hematocrit on every single lactating mother that I take care of, and that's 0 because I don't take care of
But now that you've spent a few hours, you've got almost enough qualification to deliver babies at a baby-friendly hospital.
I am ready to do it. Now, we talked about baby-friendly hospitals because it's a kind of controversial among healthcare professionals who work in those hospitals. They feel there's a lot of, you have to make people sign an informed consent to give them formula and so on and so on. So what are your thoughts on this? Do you think it's, we talked about it on our show, but give us the shorter version that just straight for the health professionals.
Well, it's a policy, right? So it's making sure that the hospital doesn't undermine efforts before they even really get a chance to start.
By giving them the crack formula.
The little free samples that are so easy to open at 3 a.m. when you're desperate.
Instead, we give them this straight up unadulterated brown booby, okay?
And I have them in peach as well. But I
felt
okay,
like yeah, different. Yeah, I was going to say she was culturally appropriate by giving me the brown one,
correct,
which is good.
Correct.
Yeah.
And also we know that our Black population is the lowest in terms of breastfeeding rates.
And that is not a joke.
That is no joke.
That is the serious truth of this. That we talk about equity all the time. The woke world talks about equity.
Right.
The healthcare professional world should be talking about truth, which is this is the population that would most benefit from better resources for this.
Absolutely. Yeah. Higher infant mortality rates, lowest breastfeeding rates. They're the ones back at work at 4 weeks because they don't have paid time off. They can't afford it.
High asthma rates,
obesity.
Yep.
Diabetes.
Yep.
These are all linked long-term. And then who are they dependent upon? The government to give them the formula at our WIC offices where I used to work.
Oh, yeah. You worked at WIC, yeah.
Working at WIC.
Yeah.
But time and time again, that's what you see. Those who would benefit the most from human milk are the ones dependent upon and now having it snatched away from them in this crisis.
Yeah. Now, see, June Black brings the lived experience that my wife had as well. R. Manning says, oh, my God, I know I was crying for over an hour trying to feed. Let's see what R. Manning said. I had mastitis 7 times, the sickest I've ever been every single time. It was hell. My wife had that. We talked about it in our show. What are your thoughts?
I think we got sidetracked and didn't even talk much about it. But recurrent mastitis, we know there's some risk factors for it. The Academy of Breastfeeding Medicine just came out with a new protocol and extending kind of how we approach mastitis because, it's just, my clients have told me it's like the most painful thing. It can affect the breastfeeding relationship.
Because you're starting to hate that kid.
You're in pain.
Yeah, you're in pain.
The pain is caused because of you wanting to lactate. And so, it can bring about problems. It is manageable, but now you got to find somebody who knows how to manage it. And a lot of times, unfortunately, physicians aren't that great at managing it. Plus, the mom goes to the pediatrician. Pediatrician is in charge of baby. OB is like milk problem solved. Here's the formula.
Yeah.
We need increased skilled providers, which is my goal.
Excellent. Sarah P.A., I had an OB telling my patient she could breastfeed while on Suboxone. Better information for docs would be nice. So can you breastfeed on Suboxone?
I don't know that one off the top of my head, but I don't have to because I use LactMed as an NIH database. And then also the Infant Risk, all one word, run by Dr. Thomas Hale out of Texas Tech. They run the Pharmacology Lactation Database. They do new studies all the time, worth every penny of the app. I make no money off of that, but I promote it a lot. Download, it's Medication of Mother's Milk. They publish every couple of years, and they go in detail, molecular weight, half-life, alternates, alternative drugs. I live by this book when I'm serving clients directly, which I don't do anymore.
Lucky you or unlucky you. You're a teacher now, really. Yeah. You're teaching the teachers and other providers. Okay, a couple things I just want to say about this supporter episode. These questions are so good, and the answers are so awesomely concise that I may just start clipping some of these and put them out as Instagram Reels or something just because you're just such a pro. I love it. And the supporters ask all the questions that I'm too male to ask because I don't have these lived experiences.
And you can feel the emotion in people's, whether it's positive or negative.
You feel
that is the first trigger.
Yeah.
That is that I am just a walking trigger.
You are so, we were talking off camera, you guys. She's just like, I go into cocktail parties and it's like, people, they find out what I do. And now I just tell them, I was going to tell them while I studied pandemics. And then I was like, now that's a fucking trigger. So now we're just left with
pole dancing.
Pole dancing, which is totally untriggering. R. Manning says, I got so much bad advice when I had it. So many not safe for breastfeeding antibiotics, which then meant delayed treatment. I'm so glad to hear there's a protocol being put into place so nobody had to suffer like I did. I mean, you feel the emotion. Yeah,
absolutely.
I mean, it sucks. It's a trauma.
It is a trauma trigger. It really is. And we pass that trauma down. So a lot of the clients that I used to serve in the health department in the WIC setting, their mothers had trauma and they passed that trauma on.
Intergenerational trauma, yeah.
Yes, because they're like, don't do it. It leads to all these problems. And sometimes, that is, when you got grandma telling you that can be pretty powerful.
Yeah, no doubt. June Black pretty much puts it in words. She is amazing, a great supporter. Yeah, see, you're getting all the love. This is unusual for a lactation consultant. You're just showered in love.
I don't know. I mean, well, that part, yes. But I always say nobody calls the lactation consultant to tell us how great things are going.
Well, I'm going to start doing it. And I'm the most biased because I was always like, those lactation consultants, let me tell you. Is marijuana THC... Oh, it's marijuana THC that's contraindicated for breastfeeding, at least for now, Risa. Is that true? Do you know offhand?
It does pass through, and we know the metabolites last for a really long time. And,
right.
And they do associate, we do know it can concentrate in breast milk. So best to avoid. Well,
unless you want your kid to be like...
What they're seeing, it doesn't do so much like give them that, but there can be like some cognitive, long-term, gross motor stuff happening on.
Snoop Doggitis.
Yeah, maybe.
Bob Marley-ification.
Well, for sure.
Cheech and Chong-itis. All right. Karen Dickerson Kuplak says, thrilled you mentioned Tom Hale. He and his work are amazing and has helped so many women continue to breastfeed and is a great educational tool. Should have seen the face of a nurse once they had walked in on me after a procedure using Versed and I was breastfeeding my baby. Versed has a crazy short half-life and was totally safe.
Absolutely. When I worked in one hospital where my primary role was at the employee health office, and we did not have maternity at that hospital, but we had a patient admitted through the ER. She had given birth at the other hospital. She had a really nasty C-section, MRSA infection happening. First thing they did was tell her no more breastfeeding.
Oh, wow.
Some of the nurses knew I worked at the hospital and that this was my specialty. And wow, I tell you, it was quite a conversation to go toe-to-toe with her physician. MRSA can't pass through the milk. And not only that, now she was laying in agony watching her breasts engorge. So that was causing fever that they were monitoring. So now she's getting fever from this engorgement. And it was horrible. But there's not enough. And a simple check of the evidence showed very quickly, no, this isn't how this should be handled.
And you mentioned going toe-to-toe with the doctors. The doctors often don't know what they don't know about this stuff, and it can be a real problem. So having someone who's a real pro is a huge asset for us.
Yeah, and they don't necessarily, of course, see that they don't know what my education, they don't even know what it takes to become an IBCLC.
Yeah.
Let alone that I've got a master's degree and degree in health science and everything. But it's still... But once we calmed down and I started just, okay, I didn't write this stuff. It's not the world according to Mirine. Here's the research on that. I do get that aha moment. Oh, wow, I didn't know that.
Man, I had a witty comment, but I really didn't. So I know. We're doing a thing on locals, a new trial where this is going out live to all locals followers, whether or not they're a paying supporter. But I have a button that I can click.
So much power.
So much power. I have a button that I can click that will make it for supporters only. So if they still are interested, they have to come join our tribe for the $5 a month. And it's worth it, right? You're in our tribe.
I am. I wish I could just do a lifetime subscription. It's been amazing. I've even made connections at my own university.
That's right. Yeah. Got fellow supporters. Well, so that's the pitch. So now I'm going to click the button. And if the locals people want to sign up for a year or a month, that'd be awesome because then you get the rest of this because we're going to talk about how to dance that pole. Actually, we're going to talk about all the things. I'm trying to make it as clickbaity as possible. What's a good
how about the fact that we don't necessarily need formula if breastfeeding is not involved?
Okay, that's the teaser. I'm clicking the supporters only button. Bye-bye. Join us or die. Here we go. Click. It says limited for supporters now. You get a minute countdown. Ooh. So it's public for a minute.
Okay.
And then so we got a minute to tease them up. Big secret. Let's read some comments. Warp Factor 9 says, hey, Zubin, our kids are now 23 and 17. When our eldest was born, my wife was so desperate to breastfeed, but she just wasn't producing anything and was on medication to try to increase lactation, but nothing worked. We had many sleepless nights and tears. Eventually, the lactation nurse says we should use formula, and even though it was heartbreaking, particularly for my wife, it saved our lives. I had a very similar story. What do you think about this?
That is a hard conversation to have with a parent. I have had clients with pituitary adenomas where they didn't have the hyperlactation. It was really suppressed. And they're like, do I need to drink the special teas? Do I need to eat the special cookies? And to say, no, actually, I think it's time that we move on. This is not going to work. Your child is losing weight. And then having to explain to them, the weight gain is associated with brain growth too. So I'm caring about this child's infant brain development, which is directly related to the feeding.
Yeah.
Early on.
Yeah. Well, we just got rid of all the free locals freeloaders, and now it's just for supporters. I know,
people
right?
would never leave.
I know, they're the worst, right? They're just secretly watching. They're they got one window open with Pornhub looking at breast milk videos, and
they were just here for the boob.
Let's read some comments. I'm going to keep you on the screen. There's Ori B from Locals. Education is so important. After my first, that's right, Ori just had another baby. After my first, they didn't tell me that certain types of birth control can inhibit your supply. Tell me about that.
Absolutely. So again, we got to get rid of, we're suppressing estrogen when we are making prolactin and oxytocin.
Giving estrogen makes it.
So giving it is going to compete. And not only that, a lot of people are like, oh, then I'll just do progesterone only, right? But progesterone competes early on because the progesterone in the placenta, we got to get rid of that to even get the prolactin level high enough. So people who are trying to build their prolactin and suddenly we throw in a depot shot or the mini pill before that reaches optimal level, now we have potential milk supply issues even with a compatible form of birth control.
Wow. How is it that I'm just still learning all this stuff from you? Oh, I know. I'm an idiot about breastfeeding. This is great.
You can come and meet at Bakersfield and you can just sit through the whole class.
Yeah, I'm gonna have a hard pass on that. Actually, no, I've spoken in Bakersfield. Being a Central Valley person, I'm used to the hellscape that is the Central Valley, and I love it, and also hate it, but also love it. It's like a love-hate thing.
Yeah.
But the people of Bakersfield are amazing, actually.
It is, and this is, we, at my center at FSU, we primarily train home visiting programs. Some are nurses, some are social work-based, so we've got a nice mixture. So we're going to train several programs in that area over the next 2 days.
I love it. Now, Karen, I'm going to keep the camera on you because you're better to look at than me. Karen McLean says, supporter and former pole dancer here. Oh, there we go. You know the supporters know how to work the pole. Beth Weatherford had twins breastfed. I'm on Facebook now, by the way, guys, if you're on Locals and you don't know where I'm getting these comments. Had twins breastfed but wasn't making that much. All said because twins, but... Oh, we talked about that on our other show, but knew it was something else, was able to switch back and forth, bottle breast, no problem, went back to work, pumped for over a year, fed naturally when home, bottle fed when I pumped, supplemented if not enough, moved when boys were 15 months old and realized I hadn't pumped in a day, no engorgement. Interesting.
Beth, that is like ninja level lactation management, which is totally possible, but so many don't figure it out, don't get good guidance. Don't get the support. Sometimes they do have the panicked partner in the house going, oh my gosh, this is just too much stress. Can we just feed the baby a bottle already and quantify the feeds so that we can all rest a little easier?
Beth says, thanks for the support. I was actually having premature ovarian failure.
Oh,
yeah.
There you go.
Interesting. Let's go over to Locals here. Look at them comments. Sarah PA says, and more education for moms that lose their infant to give information about pumping to donate.
Yes.
I'm not saying to press it, but give them the option to learn. I had friends that had a stillborn and donated 1,000 ounces of milk. We talked barely about this on the other show. This is key. Tell me about these donor milk things and what we can do.
Yeah. So it's like any other donation, like whether it's blood or what have you, you use
sperm. Again, not
plasma.
Guilty because they did not want a 5'5" brown guy, but
they wanted your milk though.
They did want my milk. I mean, yeah. So sorry. Back to donor derailed. Milk. Yeah.
So you're screened. You donate, you pump, you send your extra milk, they arrange for the shipping, and then they pasteurize it, they test it again, they pool it, they get it out in nice packaging for the premature infants. And she makes a good point. I'm sorry, I didn't remember the name, but we do see moms who they do lose their baby. Their milk is still going to come in. The body will get the signal eventually and shut that process down. But I have known women who have decided to donate. It was a way for them to kind of, have that memory, as well as feel as though I'm helping now all these other at-risk babies.
Isn't that wonderful?
That is a very special person who can do that because that's very emotional.
Yeah.
Very emotional. But it is an option. I don't know that I would how I would present that. I've not worked in situations where I'm the one talking to the, I'm not in labor and delivery, so I'm not at the bedside there.
Right.
But I have had clients that knew they were going to give birth to a baby who wasn't going to make it. And that could be a conversation prenatally to help process the grief.
Yeah. Oh, man, that's hard to even think about.
I know, it is.
I don't like it. Stop giving me the feels. Sarah P.A. and Mirine. Rachel RN. Is premature ovarian failure associated with breastfeeding problems?
I am not familiar with premature ovarian, but anytime you're having a hormonal disruption in the body, and lactation being hormonal controls, whether it's endocrine problems or other reproductive problems, PCOS certainly can interfere. So
yeah, PCOS for sure. Yeah. Worried about my baby because I wasn't able to pump. Adoptive mom wouldn't allow it. She's been fine. In fact, she's crazy intelligent. Make of it what you will, Kristen Andrews. Well, that's the whole point, is like, why are we shaming people and all of that? We don't.
Right. And absolutely, there's plenty of breastfed individuals out there walking around that probably aren't real bright. So, I mean, it's not a direct correlation.
How dare you? Also, I'm not sure. I don't know if I was breastfed, but
ask your mother.
Ask your mother about breastfeeding.
Ask your mother.
Yeah. L&D in the house, Scarlett Woodward. Nice.
But can I speak to her point?
Please do.
That this is what we were teasing. Human milk is best for brain development. Adoptive moms, foster babies, etc., shouldn't have to go without that. And that's where we are missing the mark in this country, because all we're offering in exchange is infant formula. And there's other alternatives out there. The donor milk banking is one, but the other one is there are a couple of startups out there working on synthetic breast milk. So now you've got the benefit of it being a human species specific milk, although maybe not have all of the immune components as that bioavailability that I generate when I'm lactating, but it's at least from the same species, unlike formula, but we're not investing in that in this country. And that is a shame, because that is going to end up, that has some sustainability to it, because you're always going to have people who can donate and those cells can be, grown. But I think we're years away from seeing that. But I would love to see breast milk available for all the babies.
I love it.
Even if the lactating parent isn't even in the picture.
Wouldn't that be great? Like actual formula that's human based, that's synthetic.
Right.
And you can do that with human cells, right? That can produce the stuff. Kind of like how we make vaccines, like Novavax is made in moth cells. And so there's lots that you can do here. Risa says, donor milk is only available in the hospital setting here. Oh, in Utah, because it's a prescription, right? The donor milk?
Donor milk is a prescription everywhere. Yeah. But like I said, in Florida, we've loosened up the ability to get that, at least through Medicaid, freeing it up for those who are financially at risk and probably have a lot of the higher health risks for their infants.
That's awesome. Karen McLean of the Clan McLean on Facebook says, is drug-induced lactation possible?
It is, and you don't always need drugs.
So how do you do this?
So it depends, of course, on health history. I have seen induced lactation from not a pregnancy, and it takes a lot of stimulation, double pumping. You can do some you can do some manipulation with going on progesterone and doing some things to help kind of get the hormones going. But you can do induced lactation without that if everything else is normal within range, like your hormones and your systems.
That's fascinating. Yeah. Well, you know what else is fascinating? The fact that when you talk about this and you do your hand motions, it looks like you're milking an udder. What is going on here, people? Well, is this the dance that you learned on the pole? Because
well, not just that, but I did get this nice manicure that I wanted to show off.
Doesn't she look fantastic on camera? Why am I keeping going out of focus? Let me fix that. There we go.
Focus.
You are very photogenic. Do you do a lot of news and TV and stuff?
I do. I have been in some interviews for when a milk bank opened up in Florida. I did some press as an expert speaker. But
that's awesome.
No, mainly I just do speaking in front of groups of my peers to train them on all things first 1,000 days.
You're really good. You're really good at it.
Thank you.
When you do the milk bank thing, was the slogan "Got Milk," and did you have a breast milk mustache? That's what I want to know.
I did not.
Okay.
But I had just come from the pole studio and I was a little sweaty and I was a little nervous that I was going to sweat through my shirt.
and again, the latch is always off after the pole,
It is. I was a little off. I wasn't walking so great. I'd been in the heel, the whole thing.
The whole nine.
Pole dancer problems.
The pole nine. Sarah P.A., who's asking excellent questions. Have you ever had adoptive moms start lactating and request to attempt to, even if they don't lactate, maybe do the syringe and catheter setup and allow the child to latch for attachment?
Yeah. So one of my very first, when I was still doing direct services, my very first induced lactation was a 2-mom couple, lesbian couple. One was carrying as the baby. The other one wanted to also lactate to help out.
Wow.
And it worked. And I will say that the induced lactation mom didn't produce a full supply, but we do that trick where especially adoptive moms can get that feeling, if that's something that they wanted to experience. Little feeding tube taped to the breast, goes into the supplement, whether it's donor milk or formula, and baby is latching and drawing the milk up the tube. I was doing the thing again.
You were doing the udder. You were like, udder. Okay, first of all, that's a beautiful story.
It was very cool. It was my first. They kept coming to my childbirthing class because I was teaching childbirthing classes at the hospital at the time. And of course, the 2 women in the childbirth class didn't mean anything to me. Friend, girlfriend, it didn't matter.
Right.
But it took them a few classes before they got up the nerve to come talk to me about, is this a thing? And this was before internet, so I'm kind of dating myself.
Yeah, so before like the common acceptance of mixed marriage or gay marriage couple or couples doing this kind of thing.
Or even just Googling to see if it was even possible.
Oh, right. Yeah, because you don't have the
internet. They were like, is this a thing? And I'm like, yeah, it can be.
You went for the tech hook, like was internet there. I went for the social cultural, like contextual hook. Together, we're a team. Me equals us.
Plus breasts, plus science.
Yes, that's exactly what my wife went through, Warp Factor 9. Wow, man, these are great comments. Guillaume says, I'm very pro-choice when it comes to breastfeeding. When we had our first baby, lactation consultant pressured my wife so much that she did not want to breastfeed anymore. She felt pressured, not good enough, etc. It took a lot of love and patience to help her back into some breastfeeding. When we had our second baby, I had to lie my way through the lactation consultant appointment to get rid of her. My wife ended up breastfeeding much more and much better without the pressure. What are your thoughts on this? This is not an uncommon thing.
It's not uncommon. Mm-hmm. You certainly hear it, whether it's real or perceived. It doesn't matter because the impact is the same.
That's right. Yeah.
And it can affect how you view yourself as a mother, how you view yourself as a parent, your worth. It's that's unfortunate that happened. It wouldn't have happened.
Yeah, I
don't think I would have done that. Even in my baby lactation consultant days, I don't think so.
You would have walked out of the room and been like, "Bitch, I'm going to the pole right now because I need to blow off some pole stress."
That could have happened, except for when I was a baby lactation consultant, I was still a ballerina.
Okay, so tell me about this ballerina thing, because remember I talked about on our other show, Alexandra West was also a ballet dancer, professional level ballet dancer. And she
commented that she never wasn't that kind of dancer and stayed off the pole. And I thought, well, maybe this is why I ended up in public health school rather than med school.
You know what? Science,
coincidence,
and economics. But you know what's interesting is Alexandra West, obstetrician, also specializes in trauma-informed care, as do you.
As do I.
So what is it about ballet dancers? Was it so traumatic, or you're just much more empathic or artistically connected?
Ballet is all the feels. You got to feel everything. I got to feel the floor. I've got to feel the music. I think it just sets us up with that creative space in the brain to be very receptive to all the signals that we get. That's just a theory. I haven't done any publication on that.
Feels pretty good to me. It's an embodied art form where
it is, and it's a physical art form. Yeah. I mean, my feet were gnarly as a ballet dancer. Yeah. So I think I'm tuned into people's pain, perceived or real, their impression of the pressure that's put on them to, you got to do this so that you have this perfectly healthy baby but by the way, good luck with that because we're not actually going to help you after you get home from the hospital.
Right? Exactly.
Yeah.
Chelsea on Facebook says, my parents tried to get me to quit breastfeeding. Oh, shoot, it's scrolling. Hold on. Too many comments, you guys. I am so stubborn and hate to be told what to do. I breastfed until he was 2. My mom also used to add whole milk to my breast milk because she thought it was too thin.
Too thin.
Yeah, and I got fired from my she got fired from my daycare, LOL. All my babies were preemies, so it's amazing how the body knows and just makes milk just for them.
Absolutely. And when people do pump, I mean, if you're just direct breastfeeding, you're not going to notice it. But if you pump and you're like, oh my gosh, it's like blue.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's mostly whey, whereas cow milk is mostly casein. So the color difference. But have you ever seen manatee milk?
Have I seen it? Woman, I'm a manatee milk connoisseur. Like I will every nipple, I'm squeezing it.
It's surprisingly lean considering their massive size, but it's got like a greenish tint. And polar bear milk is like, so it's like a slushy.
I don't know why, but I just had this idea, like we go to the Arctic and we milk a polar bear.
I'll be right behind you.
Yeah, you don't need to run faster than the bear. You just need to run faster than me. Wow. Okay, let's see here. Let's see. Oh man. Okay, let's go over back to locals. These comments are hard to manage, huh? Jersey Nursey says, my community had a great free class for new moms that was run by lactation consultants. It was so helpful, but I still couldn't make a full supply, and giving up breastfeeding was like mourning a loss for me. Talk about that. Yeah.
Totally grief. And when I've listened to your shows with Dr. Rachel Zoffness.
Yes.
And she talks about that biopsychosocial, right? So lactation fits in that perfectly. You do mourn a loss. The pain remains even after you remove, kind of like she was talking about the phantom limb pain thing. You can remove the breastfeeding altogether. The pain is still there.
Wow.
Because it's operating off of oxytocin. That's our like love hormone.
Yeah.
So, and oxytocin is one of those hormones that you can kind of train cognitively. For anyone who's like has breastfed that's listening, they're triggered in a good way. You can literally feel the oxytocin memory.
Wow.
And so it does get pretty profound especially when you have someone who's trying so hard and has, made this beautiful picture in their head of how their postpartum and infant feeding experience is going to go, and it gets taken away for whatever reason. It is grief.
So maybe we can be more sensitive as providers to that,
Absolutely.
And as spouses, as partners, as family.
Well, we've gotten on board the last few years with screening better for maternal depression. I've seen where pediatrics is starting to do that as well. And we have to remember that birth and feeding experience directly feeds into that maternal postpartum mental health experience.
Yeah, which is crucial. And actually, that's what Alex talked about on our show, Alex West, about around pregnancy termination and things like that. I mean, it's just a huge thing. Joy says they were out on a trail with a nursing mare and she had horse milk once. It tasted like light, warm, sweet tea.
Oh, as it should.
as it should, right? I mean, you're from the South. You know about sweet tea.
Right.
It's neither light nor warm.
No. That's awesome.
Danny Honey says, my poor mom never got over not being able to nurse. She was told by her mother-in-law that her milk was too rich. And I think my grandma was undermining her with formula, or my mom actually just had too much milk. Glad new moms have better resources. Yeah, that's tough, right?
Yeah, and thankfully we're also seeing more research on lactation, so we learn more about it all the time. I mean, there's things that change in the research or inform us a little bit better all the time, which is exciting for me, more in that research role to learn some. I learn new stuff all the time, and I've been doing this for a hot minute.
A hot minute.
A hot minute.
No less. Man, that's a southern way to talk.
I am Southern,
girl,
through and through.
Where'd you grow up?
I grew up in Florida.
Oh, so you're a Flo Rida all the way.
Lower Alabama.
Woo, Lower Alabama.
LA. That's what, yeah.
I love it. I love it. Okay, hang on here. I want to see. Oh, I want to make a comment. So it's interesting. So on Locals, when we started, we had about 45 people watching live. And when I clicked it to supporters, we dipped down to about 24. So that's an interesting statistic that I want to remember. We'll see if we can get some conversions over there.
So it's only the cool kids here. But you know, the thing is that you put anything about breastfeeding and you're automatically going to get people like,
Tell me about that.
Because it's either a personal trauma or they're like, no, I don't work with mothers and infants.
Yep.
But the thing is that when I used to teach at our local nursing school when I was still in South Florida, I would ask the nursing students who's going into orthopedics, who's going into ER, who's going into what, get all the stuff, and you're all going to encounter a lactating person at some point, because unless you're strictly working with men,
right?
If you're serving women in any capacity, someone's going to be in your ER that's lactating and needs management. Someone's going to need surgery. Someone's going to need a CT scan. And I think that a lot of times people are like, oh, she teaches that class. Oh, no, I don't work in labor and delivery. I'm not going to go.
Yeah. It's common.
It is very common.
Whereas I was like, yeah, come over here and we're going to duel. I'm going to tell you what I think about you. And then 5 minutes later, I'm like learning all this stuff. I'm like, oh shit, this is actually.
I softened you up with a
breast
toy.
Because you guys know, like, and Mirine actually reached out by email and was like, hey, I'm a supporter. I saw something like Marty said on Twitter. I know your take on lactation consultants. I just want to know, this is what I educate on, and so on. And I was like, oh, like usually when people reach out, they're not very good on the show, with notable exceptions. One is Rachel Zoffness, who reached out because she's so passionate about pain education, and she saw my platform and is like, I don't know who you are or care who you are. I just need to get this message out. And I was like, hell yeah.
Same.
And
well, I knew who you were, but maybe it's university people.
Could be. You guys just know.
Because I have absolutely no financial interest in being here other than,
Wait a minute. So
stop here.
So the 10,000 rupees I'm paying you, which is something like $1.
I'm going to need Bitcoin.
No, not today. You're not.
No, not today.
Not today. You're not.
No,
the thing
maybe
crashed.
not today.
I know. I feel bad for my friends who are.
So cash is fine.
Cash is king.
Cash is king.
Yeah. Don't worry. But see, cash is post-tax money. And
and I also wanted to speak to you because this isn't your realm.
No.
Right. And if anyone was going to be able to talk about it and kind of share that, hey, we all can learn something about this, even if you're already a physician, you're already doing this, that, and the other. I'm hoping you'll inspire some of your supporters to maybe think about, maybe I need to educate myself more on this.
Are you accusing me of intellectual humility? Because I won't have that. I'm the smartest person in the room if the room has got a cat in it and nothing else. And even then, it's questionable.
Well, and just take that breast with you wherever you go, and you will automatically be the smartest person in the room.
Breast side? Dude. Mirine, I think we might have done a thing here.
Man, we didn't even skim the surface.
Dude,
There's
I know.
So much more to talk about.
Tell me a couple more things about, because we're about 30. Okay. We're about wait, where are we? We're about 52 minutes in, and I want to wrap it up in under an hour to make it a chewable show. The formula industrial complex. Yeah. Tell me why they suck.
Hot mess.
Yeah.
So we've created this system in the United States where we only allow 3 major manufacturers to get our government contracts for the majority of the population that do use formula. We've got the store brand folks, they don't do the bidding. But because we've never implemented the World Health Organization's code of marketing of breast milk substitutes, which is what that's referred to as, very wordy, other countries have, and the labels look different. The formula coming into this country is going to have some different information on the label that's required by World Health that we don't enforce here. So parents are going to notice the difference if they look at the label.
If they get in this airlifted...
if they even get some of the stuff that's been airlifted in. But we've excluded congressional, acting on this World Health Organization code. And it's because of that marketing, very, very pervasive marketing that we allow, we have more people using formula than we probably should,
in America,
according to most comparisons of other countries that are similar.
And the parallel would be direct-to-consumer marketing for drugs, which only the U.S. and New Zealand allows. And we have these high uses of prescription drugs.
And that direct-to-consumer, especially direct-to-pregnant people, is not allowed in countries that have adopted that code.
Interesting.
But the World Health Organization has watched and seen the mess that has unfolded, and they started doing research more than a year ago on how the marketing was impacting our market here, and here we are.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it's like big pharma.
It is. big formula. And maybe we should take some of the money that we allow these formula lobby group, the one group, to take, reel that in a little bit. Let's spend some money on the research for human milk products, if not donor milk banking, or how about both?
I love it.
Or why don't we just expand paternal and maternal paid leave so that we actually can. I saw Amazon is giving 20 weeks, and I was like, come on, it's 6 months of exclusive breastfeeding is what's recommended. Come on, give them 4 more weeks to at least somebody meet the 6, to at least give them a fighting chance. I mean, they may not want to, or they may not be able to, but let's at least give them some opportunity.
Yeah, you may not know the answer to this, but I'm curious what countries that have very liberal maternity and paternity leave policies, like the Nordic countries, Sweden, et cetera. I wonder what their breast feeding uptake rates are relative to us.
Higher. And their infant mortality is lower, and their parental and paid leave is amazing. And they also restrict formula marketing, if not the entire code, parts of it.
Yeah, but they're communists, right?
I mean, I wouldn't want to live there. It's too cold.
You are a Florida. You're a
Florida.
A lower Alabama
exactly.
patron. Oh, man. Well, gang.
This was fun.
This lady. Is she not amazing? Come on. And then B Knuckles says, hey, just for laughs, how do you wean daddy?
Okay, you'll have to take my workshop for that. I'm not giving that out for free.
This is where you monetize it.
This is where I'm going to monetize it.
It's just like where I click the supporter button. Right. It's the same. It's the same.
So the first thing you're going to want to do is...
That's right. Click. Click more to sign up.
That is not an uncommon question, though. I want to normalize that question.
Okay, yeah, please.
Many men are very attracted to their partner during breastfeeding and enjoy sampling.
Partaking, yes.
Sampling the breast milk. And if mom's got some plugged ducts, I say go for it. We got to get the milk moving.
I personally am partial to manatee milk because it's thinner.
It's greener.
It's greener. Have you seen the Star Wars movie where Luke Skywalker's on that little island and he milks that weird sea manatee?
Yes.
Yes, and it was green.
And that's consistent with what we know about manatees. They have an all-vegetarian diet.
So once again,
science.
Star Wars, science.
Evidence-based.
Evidence-based science fiction. That's what it is. I love this person. You guys, your supporter tribe is the best.
I love you too. And
Mirine.
I'm just very thankful that you took the opportunity on this topic, this chance on this topic, because this is... A lot of people aren't going to listen because they're going to have a preconceived notion about our conversation. So maybe we name it something like the real COVID truth. I mean, just something that, something very clickbait.
You had me going. I'm like, she's gonna have the perfect breast is West Side best, and she's like the real COVID truth. I'm like, that will hit the clicks,
right?
Yeah, and
then they'll be forced to and we'll be and we're going to reveal the truth at the end.
That's right. The truth will be at the very end, dudes. So awesome.
So fun.
Thank you so much.
I'm so excited to be here.
It's so fun to have a supporter in the studio teaching me, and you're doing wonderful things in the world. I can't wait to release the full episode. I suspect this episode actually had a lot of gems in here that I would love. We can talk offline about can we release some or all of this too? Because it's just really good. And part of it is because the supporters ask such great questions.
They really do. And I'm sure that I was trying to look at some of the comments as they were flying by, and I know there was some really good comments and questions in there. I will say, just if they do want more information, they can reach me through our FS Florida State University. I'm at the Center for Prevention and Early Intervention Policy, and I do free webinars. We do free webinars. We do trainings for agencies, hospitals, and I am listed on the faculty directory there.
That is great. And what we'll do, especially on the public shows, is we'll put a link. You'll give me links to all your stuff so that people can find
it. It's on the bottom of your breast.
What the health? Wait a minute. Breastfeeding counselor training, cpeip.fsu.edu.
That's me.
Oh, snap. Let me show it to the crowd here. No one can read that, even in 4K. I love it. Thank you so much, darling.
Thank you.
This was so much fun.
We'll keep the party going.
Oh, hell yeah. Now I got to figure out how to end this live stream because there's 3 live streams. Okay, hold on. We're going to fade to black, and then we have to be real quiet because they can still hear us. Or you know what? We can keep talking, but just know that they can hear us. All right, fade to black, bam.